The story begins with a boss introducing the new intern named Xiao Meng to the team at a gaming company. Our protagonist, named Meng Shu, is super excited about graduating and finally getting a job. But 1 week later, the young man's excitement was completely gone, and he had already become a corporate drone working late hours. Because of this, the young man becomes totally disillusioned with life and realizes that his effort won't lead anywhere. At this moment, the boy becomes so desperate with his situation that he wishes the world would end soon. Totally exhausted, all he can do is look at the ceiling, thinking about how miserable his life is. Then the young man thinks that some people are born to be rich and others to be workhorses, and he is a workhorse. At that point, he wishes the world would be destroyed by aliens, and suddenly a strange voice echoes in his mind. It was the perfect life system that had just been activated, and the protagonist doesn't understand anything. Suddenly, a screen appears in front of him with his stats, welcoming him to the perfect life system. The young man is shocked and wonders what this blue screen is that appeared out of nowhere in front of him. Then Meng Shu realizes he has gained a system, and with a smile, he says he won't be working overtime anymore. With that, the protagonist yells that he is now free and that he doesn't care about the boss or his intense job. However, as soon as he breaks free, a truck appears out of nowhere and causes a massive accident. But Meng Shu is fine, and looking out the window, he thinks it was just a gas explosion, not understanding what happened. Outside, chaos is rampant, and several people are down everywhere amidst the destruction. At that moment, strange people with red eyes appear and start attacking everyone. These creatures seem to have lost their minds and are overwhelming each other without mercy. Observing all of that, our protagonist starts sweating cold, realizing the seriousness of the situation. With a bit of fear, the young man goes to the window to see up close what is really happening. Then Meng Shu turns to the system and asks, stammering, what the name of that thing was again. The system responds that it's the perfect life system, and the boy freaks out, saying it looks like the apocalypse outside. At that exact moment, a strange woman starts hitting the glass door right behind the young man. The young man becomes tense and starts crying in despair for being trapped with that scary thing. The creature continues forcing the glass door, trying to break in the office where Meng Shu is. The infected woman doesn't give up and continues banging on the glass to try and get the boy. Then the protagonist remembers that that woman is the boss's niece and that he has seen her in the elevator before. With this, he realizes that the beautiful woman from before has turned into one of those creatures and is coming right for him. The boy then, with an awkward smile, asks the system to pretend he didn't say anything earlier. But the system ignores him and gives him the mission to flirt with the zombie to earn 1 attribute point. Ignoring the crazy mission, the protagonist decides to look for supplies and finds a package of food. Next, the young man also finds a jug of water to ensure his survival in this office. Sitting in the chair, he thinks that since the system gave him a mission, he might as well test it now. With that, the young man fills himself with courage and goes to the glass door to unlock it and face the creature. As soon as the door opens, the zombie woman rushes forward but ends up tripping and falling flat on her face on the floor. The young woman lies there on the floor for a moment, looking a little confused about the whole situation. Then Meng Shu approaches and formally introduces himself, asking if he can be her friend. Seeing that she didn't respond, the boy says he'll take her silence as a yes. But right afterward, he runs and slams the door in her face, leaving the creature trapped outside. The infected young woman sits on the floor in silence, processing what just happened. Suddenly, the woman becomes furious and lets out a terrifying scream, showing that she didn't like the joke. With a lot of anger, the zombie starts hitting her head against the glass door, trying to break it. She throws herself against the glass while the protagonist observes her with a smile and asks if that counts. At that point, the system announces that the mission was completed, but with the terrible rating of the worst flirt ever. Even so, he gains 1 attribute point and 10 affection with Chi Wei, and the young man finally remembers her name. The young man wonders if having high affection with the zombie will prevent her from attacking him. The system explains that affection makes the target want to get closer, and at a certain level, they will obey him. Then the young man realizes he can control zombies and that his girlfriend is an undead being. The protagonist is a little lost and complains that there is no beginner's guide to help him. With that, he decides he will have to figure everything out on his own and tells the system to add the point to strength. After giving the command, the young man lets out a sigh, preparing for what's to come. The system then confirms that the point was successfully added, and his strength is now 11. A blue energy surrounds the boy, and he feels the power flowing through his body, yelling that the apocalypse can come. In Apocalypse, everything is important, from mental state to constitution, strength, and agility. But for Meng Shu, the most important thing now is strength to survive in this new world. After allocating the points to strength, he feels a different energy in his body that he can't describe. He looks at the little food he found and realizes that without a rescue team, he will soon perish. At that point, the system gives him a new mission to punch the clock, because the perfect life starts with promotions. The reward is 5 points and the chance for an extra opportunity, but the zombie is at the door. The protagonist is worried because the time clock is outside and Chi Wei is in the way. The protagonist notices that the young woman seems even more desperate to get him now that he is stronger. At that point, the system informs him that the mission of flirting can be optimized and the terrible rating re-evaluated. With a determined look, the young man realizes he can solve the two missions at once. He knows the greatest danger is infection, so he needs to avoid being scratched by the creatures. To prepare for the confrontation, the young man finds and picks up a pair of scissors that was on one of the desks. Then the boy uses adhesive tape and paper to create improvised armor on his legs. Totally equipped with his armor and a spear, he believes the system wouldn't give him an impossible mission. Thus, the protagonist takes a deep breath and opens the glass door again to face what is outside. But to his surprise, it wasn't just Chi Wei who was waiting for him, but a corridor full of zombies. Seeing the zombies advancing, he yells, declaring his feelings for Chi Wei and asking her out. With his spear in hand, he continues with the bad pickup lines and invites her to dinner on Thursday. The young man then wonders if he will gain more points for using these incredibly cheesy and tacky pickup lines. But the system calls him shameful and says that the young woman's impression of him is terrible now. Mengxiu is totally shocked by the result and doesn't understand why his affection decreased so much. The zombie Chi Wei looks at the protagonist with a clear expression of disgust and contempt on her face. The protagonist has a blank expression, not understanding why his pick-up line went so wrong with the zombie. Meanwhile, in the boss's office, two men are hidden, and one of them recognizes Mengxiu's voice. They peek through the door and wonder what the boy is doing, declaring his feelings for Chi Wei. The boss is shocked and thinks Mengxiu has completely lost it for confessing to a zombie. But then the manager notices something strange and wonders why the creature is not attacking the young man. With that, he has the idea of using the young man as a bait to create a distraction so they can escape. Meanwhile, the protagonist manages to pass through the zombies and reach the clock to punch in. He succeeds and thinks that each office has its own zombies, and that he shouldn't get involved in the others. At that point, the system announces that the mission was completed successfully, and his rating was passable. As a reward, the young man gains 5 points and a warning that his boss will notice him, but he doesn't care about that. The young man then wonders what the points are for, and the system opens a store with items to buy. Mengxiu gets irritated by the store options and says that only an idiot would choose money in the apocalypse. He sees that Chi Wei doesn't attack him, but decides to go back to the office and think about his next move. On the way back to the safety of the room, a voice desperately calls out to him from a door. It was his boss asking for help and telling the protagonist to lure that thing away from them. The protagonist recognizes manager Zhang and makes fun of his arrogance from before the apocalypse. With this, he says that in the apocalypse, every person counts, and he'll see what his leader is up to. The manager then opens the door with a malicious smile on his face, ready to use the young man. But as soon as Mengxiu approaches, the door is closed with force in his face without warning. From inside the room, the boss begs the boy to take the creature away and promises a promotion. Meanwhile, the zombie Chi Wei slowly approaches the protagonist, who is stopped in the hallway. With a mocking smile, the young man says that manager Zhang is quite a character. The system then congratulates the young man for having attracted the attention of his superior successfully. Then Mengxiu yells, asking what they do there and suggests returning to their office. The two men are terrified by the young man's proposal and refuse the offer at the time. Desperate, they think the boy has gone crazy and try to lock the door to protect themselves. The boss tells the other guy to help push the desk to block the entrance and prevent the attack. At that point, the manager yells at the colleague, telling him to put more effort into moving the heavy furniture. But suddenly the door explodes and Mengxiu invades the room, throwing the boss far away. The protagonist greets the two of them, and the manager lying on the floor tries to talk to him. Ignoring the boss, the protagonist says he is returning to work and leaves walking calmly. The manager and his colleague stand still with a confused expression, not understanding anything. At that point, the zombie Chi Wei sees the young man running and prepares to go after him full speed. With the determined look, the creature focuses on its target and prepares for the attack. Then the undead woman advances with an impressive speed in the direction of the young man. With a powerful jump, she flies through the hallway in the direction of the office door. Inside, Mengxiu hears the desperate screams of the boss asking to save him. But the boy just ignores the request for help and continues holding the door firmly. Suddenly, blood splatters all over the glass while the protagonist observes everything calmly. With this, the mission is complete with a perfect score, and he gains a letter of recommendation. The young man also unlocks a secret achievement called Generation Z Cleans Up the Workplace. As a reward, the system gives him 5,000 in cash and suggests a barbecue to redeem himself. With a malicious smile, he thinks that with the perfect life system, it's easy to make money. Suddenly, an email icon appears in front of him, leaving the protagonist surprised. Without thinking twice, the young man touches the icon to see what the message he received is. The screen shows the job recommendation letter that guarantees a new part-time job for the young man. The protagonist gets excited, thinking he can choose a game class, and accepts the offer at the time. But the new profession is leaflet distributor, and the young man has a less than happy look on his face. Meanwhile, outside, the apocalypse continues with explosions and zombies all over the city. Back in the office, the young man speaks ironically and wonders what type of leaflet he will distribute now. Then the system informs him that he unlocked exclusive part-time missions to choose from. The young man finds the money useless and chooses the gym mission for having less leaflets. At that point, the system calls him lazy for choosing the easiest task, and he doesn't understand the experience. A screen explains that leveling up gives attribute and skill points in addition to special powers. The protagonist then understands the logic of the system that a long journey begins with a single step. He thinks that with this divine system, maybe he can survive until humanity rebuilds. The mission is selected, and the young man grabs the 500 leaflets from the academy to start the distribution. The system also says for him to yell a slogan to gain extra experience, and he prepares himself. Thus, he goes out into the hallway and is faced again with the zombie Chi Wei stopped looking at him. The young man calls her Miss Chai, and her affection with him decreases by 50 more points at the time. The young woman's affection continues to fall, and the protagonist despairs with so many negative points. The young man panics completely, seeing that his relationship with the zombie only gets worse every second. With that, he laments the situation and says that if she knew him, she would see that he is a good person. Then the young man tries to be friendly and says hi to Shi Wei, but her affection falls even more. Suddenly, the young man sees his old boss and colleague on the floor, transformed into zombies, asking for help. He complains to the zombie manager, saying that it's unfair that he doesn't like him after all he did. With a smile on his face, the protagonist approaches the two zombies, holding the leaflets. Then he starts reciting the slogan of the Swimming and Fitness Academy to the two of them. The leaflets fall on the ex-boss while Chi Wei observes the scene, not understanding anything. The system criticizes him for having thrown the leaflets, and he gets irritated, saying that they were the ones who deflected. With a sad face, the young man laments the treatment he receives from his former work colleagues. Then he says that since they can't go to heaven, he will have to help them find a job. The protagonist offers the job to Brother Lu but remembers that for that, he needs legs. At this moment, an idea arises in his head, and he prepares to put his plan into action. With a smile, the young man offers the job of sweeping the floor to his former zombie manager. In another place, a woman was looking at her cell phone, seeing the latest news before everything happened. She sees a post from 6 days ago that warned about the outbreak and asked everyone to stay home. Hidden in her room, the young woman cries desperately, wondering why the world became this way. The woman doesn't understand how the apocalypse spread so fast and begs for someone to save her. Suddenly, a zombie starts kicking the door of her hiding place, trying to invade the place. The young woman is terrified and covers her mouth, realizing that the creatures have finally found her. But at this moment, she hears a loud voice yelling something outside the room. It was our protagonist asking if she wanted to know about swimming and fitness. The girl is completely confused with the situation and doesn't understand what the voice is saying. She finds the young man very enthusiastic and wonders what it means to be a premium customer. Then the door knob starts spinning slowly, making the woman even more frightened. Through the glass, she sees Meng Shu with the leaflets while zombies bang on the door behind him. With a lot of fear, the young woman opens a small crack in the door to peek at what is happening. The protagonist offers her a program for office zombies with a zombie instructor. He continues the advertisement, saying that even zombies need an advantage to catch people. He says that they can dream of being the zombie king and offers the first fitness class for free. The young woman stays on the floor, holding the door, unable to believe what is happening on the other side. Crying, she thinks she must be hallucinating because the scene is too bizarre to be real. At that point, the woman takes her cell phone to leave a last message, saying that someone strolls with zombies. She types that she has been trapped for a long time and now saw a guy selling swimming lessons to the undead.